If our greatest value really is our health and our family, I challenge you to consider the most fundamental question of all. Do you align your lifestyle to these values? Whilst it can be hard to sit down and listen to discussions on the big topics like ailing physical and mental health and even suicide, or our relationships with alcohol and other drugs, they are of course discussions we need to have. Don't let trauma be your catalyst for change, and get in early are my main mantras. But sadly, so often this is not the case. My seminar is called The Wake Up Call, and for good reason. It combines 16 years in the ambulance service as a paramedic, trauma counsellor and a speaker, and concentrates on all the big ticket items, all the stuff that invades people's lives and breaks them down, most of which are avoidable or reversible. I always start with the worst case scenario and ask people who has had the suicide conversation with the kids or their partners. This question always draws a room full of blank faces, but the next one is a showstopper. Do you think we are all capable? The answer, of course, is an absolute yes. It just depends on where the switch is. We must invest more into ourselves mentally and physically, and learn more about ourselves to keep us well. In this day and age, if you have handed the sole responsibility over to your doctor, you are surely going to die. Many Australians are micromanaging themselves sick. 1 in 2 of us are becoming depressed, millions of antidepressants prescribed, making Australia second only to Iceland on the world stage, popping the most pills just to get through the day. Medicine cabinets filled with a cocktail of other pharmaceuticals like pain relief, blood pressure, cholesterol and gastric and bowel medications, just to name a few. How did we ever get to this? Most people these days don't even know what their own blood pressure is. One young woman I was treating the other day was telling me, as a teenager and under the pump with end of year school exams, went to the doctors to get something to calm her and was placed on Prozac. 5 years on, she is still on Prozac. Worse still, the doctor has upped the dose. Whatever happened to just being sad, feeling emotional or anxious or fearful? All the human emotions we were provided with to feel life, yet now it's like everything must be numbed and taken away. We are now formally classified for every human behaviour and emotion we possess, and this worries the daylights out of me. How can it be you can sit across the table from your doctor and in an 8-minute window raise a handful of symptoms and come out with a diagnosis of depression and be medicated accordingly? I still wonder in 30 years from now if the medical fraternity will turn around and say, "You did what to treat mental health?" We live in a life now where we treat the symptom but never the cause. We may choose to take an antidepressant, but we don't invest in mind health and do all the organic things first, like change our lifestyles, our diet, yoga, meditation, exercise, or see a psychologist or a counsellor. Instead, we eat crap. We fill our minds full of crap from social media. We buy crap we don't need to impress people we don't like. Complain that it's everybody else's fault and then just take a pill. Is that you? Where do you expect it to go from here? The only thing we ultimately have control over is us. And I would have relayed this statement to thousands of people over my time as a counsellor. Whilst we remain stuck blaming everybody else for our shortcomings, we are not growing and rendering ourselves more unable every day. We stay trapped in this kind of thinking. Nobody can rob you of your feelings and perceptions. Nobody can force a tablet down your mouth. Or can they? I guess there is the point that we lose control of ourselves, and I can't think of a more frightening place to be. Wouldn't you want to protect that with everything you have, even your life? Because that is probably what we're talking about here. The good news is life can be changed, and often in moments. Many will disagree with this, but I've witnessed this very change in so many. When you wake up tomorrow morning, do you move one step closer to the ideal you, or do you move one step further away? Do the mirror test and have a chat to the person that's looking back. And you ask a few key questions. How well am I doing? What is my medicine cabinet looking like? What is my relationship like with social media? How good are my connections? What is the state of my physical health? When is the last time I invested in my mental health? And how well do I actually eat? Hippocrates famously once said, "Let food be thy medicine and your medicine thy food." What a debauchery we have turned food into. Pre-packaged food is an absolute disgrace. And we've been conned and fooled by billions of dollars worth of advertising to eat things like low fat and no fat, which has created a world obesity epidemic. And 1/3 of us on track to become a diabetic. You see, when you started sucking the fat out of food, it tasted like shit. So we filled it full of sugar. When next purchasing your pre-packaged food, flip it over and look at the carbohydrate content and divide it by 4. Every 4 grams of carbohydrate is equivalent to 1 teaspoon of sugar. A bottle of Coca-Cola, a juice, an iced coffee or a yogurt, often laced with anything from 12 to 20 teaspoons of sugar. And don't be fooled by going by the serving size either. That is misguiding. Use that per 100 gram scale and then check out how many grams is in that container. You will be amazed. And of course, every expert contradicts the next expert of what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating, when really it's not that hard. Here it is just in 8 words. Don't eat crap and expect to feel terrific. 70% of serotonin, that golden nugget that makes us feel good, is produced in the gut. There you have it, done and dusted. To conclude, I would say to you this: where did all our elders go to, our go-to people, our state men and state women go to? If you asked me that question 20 years ago, it was easy. It was my Uncle Frank, it was my Auntie Bev, it was the cleaner at school. Now Uncle Frank is an alcoholic. Auntie Bev is smoking way too many cones, and the cleaner at school has just been done for pedophilia. All my elders are gone, and I wonder who's replaced them. If you're like me, I'm starting to really struggle. So it has occurred to me that I am the elder. I'll be the go-to person for my family and friends. I know it will take work and investment, but I figure what a wonderful and worthy life goal it would be to sit back in that rocking chair of life as the wisest man on the block, and a safe place to go to for all those who I love to talk about life for a while. And who knows, perhaps leaving feeling reinvigorated, hopeful and able to take on the world.